Hi everyone, this is Selvi. Today's interview question is, which estimation method is good to use and why? The estimation methods are story point estimation, hours based estimation, or both. Now let's get into the topic of Agile. In Agile, we welcome changes and we are open to accept the changes. When we say we are open to accept the changes, we always go with certain uncertainties. There will be uncertainties in the work item when we are actually estimating the work item. So that's the reason in story point estimation we consider different factors like complexity, risk involved, dependencies involved, what is the business value that we are delivering, then of course what is the amount of work that is required. So with all these factors we come up with the estimation value when we are using the story point estimation. And at the end we will come up with the story points, and the story points will not give any kind of value that is related to the hours, and it is not an absolute value of estimation. It is actually an estimation which follows relative estimation model, whereas we have something called as the lowest level of estimation value, that is story point 1, which is of least complexity and with least business value, no dependencies, no risk, and amount of work that is involved is also very very minimum. This kind of work item is actually 1, story point 1. So now whatever the work item that we are going to estimate, we always compare with this work item, how big this work item that we are estimating is, bigger or smaller when compared to this work item which is of story point 1. So here there is no chance that we are giving any kind of absolute figures. So when there are uncertainties and when we are open to changes, when we are welcoming the changes, it is always good to go with user story point estimation, so that it gives us the confidence that how well the work item is complex, how well the work item is having risk and dependencies, how well this work item is involved with the business value. These kind of understanding we will be getting with the story point value. Whereas let's talk about task. In user stories, when as part of the sprint planning, when we are actually knowing, okay, this user story is going to be a part of the scope of the sprint, which means it is already aligned to the sprint goal, so it is available as part of the sprint backlog, we have started doing the task breakdown for this work item, which means for this user story we started creating task. So on the sprint planning day, when we will be picking up the work item, when we have 100% confidence, like okay, this is with high priority and there are no open dependencies involved in this, and it is meeting the definition of ready, that is when we will be picking up this work item for sprint execution. So now we are more confident here and we know the details in depth, and the uncertainty level is very very minimum or zero, which means we are in a position to task breakdown that particular user story. Here this confidence is giving us to give absolute values in time. That means this task will take so and so hours approximately, so I am estimating this particular task in hours, like it will take 8 hours. This task I am very sure that it will take 6 hours, because more and more I have clarity and there are no uncertainties. So when there are no uncertainties and we are very much clear about the work item, we are doing the task breakdown in the user story, we can go ahead with the absolute values in time. So in sprint planning time, we all know we will be picking up the user stories where we have 100% confidence, where we are very clear with the information, where we don't have any uncertainties. That is the level of confidence we have, and that is the time we will be doing task breakdown, and that is the time we will be able to give the absolute values in time. So now what is the best method here? Combination of these two is going to give a real essence for us in estimation. Why so? Because We all know in Agile world we deal with uncertainties, and we all know we are open to changes. We all know we need to adapt to that changes. So it is always good to estimate the user stories in the level of story points, which allows us to give some kind of room for us to think about the uncertainties and use those as well as part of our estimation factor. Whereas during sprint planning, we are getting into the next level or the complete level of understanding what we are going to work, and we are very much clear about what is the thing that we are expecting out of this task. Then we are able to put it in absolute values, which is the time value in hours. Now, this is the reason we have the user story, that is the parent item, which is the execution work item for a team, that is given in story points because it initially dealt with lot of uncertainties. So when we have estimated, we always thought of different factors. But when during sprint planning, we got into the level, because we are in the execution phase, we know now what exactly we need to do because the level of clarity is more now. So at this moment, we will be in a position to estimate in absolute value of time. So now the combination of these two will give the best estimation method. Now I just want to add one more tip here. In situations where the product roadmap is very clear and the team is very matured, and it is the same team working on the same kind of product for long run, and they are very much aware of the product roadmap, and they know the complex work item, and they know the modules very clearly, then we can very well say that the complexity factor is always less. And sometimes those level of matured team, there is no much detail tasking is required because they can handle that at the user story level itself. In those situations, yes, of course, story point estimation itself will hold good because task is not mandatorily required, I can say, even though it is a good practice always to do tasks which will give much more clarity for the team, for the stakeholders where we are, and to manage the dependencies, to understand the blockers, for all those things it will be really helpful. But if the team is really matured and they can handle at the level of user stories because they are very well aware and the team is very stable and they are long term with the product association, then it is also possible you can skip this task breakdown part and you can directly deal at the level of user stories. In those situations, story point estimation itself will help us. So these are the details I just want to share. So in a nutshell, the combination of both user story point estimation as well the task estimation which happens in the hours is going to be beneficial for any team, because at the level of user stories we accept changes and uncertainties are there, so story point estimation is going to help us. And at the task level, after the task breakdown structure which happens at the task breakdown at the sprint planning level, which will give us the complete clarity of what we are going to work at the task level, which can be very well estimated in the absolute values of time. So here it is the very important essence. And at the places where we have clarity and the team is very stable and long-term association with the product, then we can very well go ahead with story point estimation itself, because that itself will hold most of the details because team is very clear about what are the things that they are going to deal. Thank you everyone for listening. Happy learning and stay tuned.